You're panting so hard, Wayne. Are we live? Did we do it? Is it happening? Is it real? Or is it Memorex? All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to Graders Notes today. Great episode. A lot of these guys are telling me this is the first Star Wars comic they've ever read in their life because it was my pick. I love Star Wars comics. I love Star Wars in general. And if you're a Star Wars fan, today has been an exciting day, and especially if you're a Star Wars comic book collector's fan. Speculation blew up after the Disney had their investors meeting. They announced 10 new Star Wars streaming shows, 10 new Marvel streaming shows, 15 new related properties, including things like Indiana Jones and Willow. Are you kidding me? Wow. If you got Key Collector, it's been ringing off the hook because things have been going crazy in the comic book world based on all of this stuff. One of the shows that they're going to bring out is Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? And it's my speculative belief that it's going to be centered a lot around the story that appears here in Star Wars #7 from 2015. So this book could also have a minor spec to it, but right, this is an Obi-Wan story. I'm not going to spoil it. We'll get into it as we get with my other greater companions here. And let me introduce them. So bringing it in, the man, the pinch hitter, the guy who we are always bringing in when we need him, and he's always there when we need him. We're going to introduce Unruly Simeon first. How do I get him on the screen? Well, there he is. Let's get everybody.
It's a mass unmasking.
If you've been a fan of Greeters Notes, you know, oh man, it's Miracle's turn. So the technical part of this is going to be a little bit iffy. Wayne, how do you feel about reading your first Star Wars comic today?
I'm not a Star Wars hater. I'm not a big fan of movie properties or movie adaptations.
Okay. Well, that's not what we had here. It's like an original story, right? Anyway, another Star Wars version down there in the corner there. Kenny, sir, how did you feel about today's pick?
Oh, that will prove to be told, but my general feelings on Star Wars is, I dig it. I don't have a special affinity for Star Wars. Like, I haven't seen all the films.
What?
Like the original trilogy, I don't even think I've seen all
Perry Comics now.
Trilogy, yeah. So, but
where's that boot button?
I think it's cool. I think it's, a pretty cool property. But yeah, I don't have like a special interest in. I know there's a rabid fan base for Star Wars. I'm just not in that club. But it seems like a good time to me.
All right. We'll get into that. Later we'll have a little
intervention.
Yeah.
We may show up at your house with the original trilogy, the Hand Shot First trilogy. Anyways, up here on my left, right or right on their part in the screen. Gino, I know you like Star Wars. I know you're not a fanatic too, but how did you feel about me picking a Star Wars comic? Were you into it? Were you like, really, Star Wars, Dave? Come on, man. Yes.
I was hyped because it's like Wayne. I've never actually read one, but I was a fan of old. And shut up in a second. So yeah, I was kind of digging on it. I was curious. I was a little worried because and I shouldn't have been because that's a property that would really easily transition into comics, really, because of all the lore out there and the cartoons, but I was just concerned about the subject matter, and so I was pretty hyped to read this.
Well, that's good because I was super hyped to pick a Star Wars comic. I was like, I know I left it up to the audience to do my pick. It was either a G.I. Joe yearbook or this book, and I'm so glad they picked this book. Yeah, let's like I said, Star Wars spec has gone crazy. I think Star Wars is totally so red hot in all comic book forums that you guys are remiss not to have added some to your collection by now. I can tell you that. Wayne, we were going to pull you up first. How about we start with you today? All right. we'll start at the beginning where everybody pulls it in. We'll start at the cover. All right, brother. So how did you feel? What was your grades about today's cover?
All right, so there's probably not a bigger Cassidy fan on the planet Earth than this guy right here, and it's okay. The colors like the interior colors really stand out to me. I like it. I know that's the Star Wars logo, but it's kind of boring. But I'm not one that really nitpicks over a trade dress. Here's my problem. It seems like Cassidy, they're using him, and I know this is 5 years old, but particularly of late, they're using him as a cover artist more than interiors. And the whatever the process they use for the colors to make it stand out more just doesn't work as well as for him as just simple inking and regular interior colors to me, because he is probably in my top 5 all-time favorite artists. Certainly he has done 2 of my favorite all-time comics, Astonishing X-Men and Planetary. But I really dig the misfit crew of Boba Fett's villains on the bottom. It's a decent rendition of Ben Kenobi. It's just not as good as he can do. So I'll just give it a solid 3.
3, eh? That's an interesting score. Yeah, I kind of agree with you there a little bit. Kenny, how did you feel about that? Do you feel the same way, or are you?
Well, and could you click this little screen share thing here? There we go. So here she is. Yeah, I mean, I think it's overall pleasing to the eye. I think I need to zoom out one more time for that to get the whole image. Okay. I want to include that little frog guy at the bottom. That's my favorite part. All right. I think it's overall pleasing to the eye. It doesn't feel like particularly inspired, but I agree. With Simeon on, I think that the lower third, Jabba's Goons is pretty cool. I don't think anything is like particularly well rendered. There's no like super impressive line work. I think the colors are bright, but I don't know, not enough like. Just seems it comes off a bit digital, a little too digital to me. I dig that double sun. I don't know if that's like a Star Wars thing, that there's like 2 suns on this planet, but that struck me right away. I'm like, whoa, double sunset. I like it. So I think it's cool. Pretty good composition. There's just nothing like on the execution of it that I felt really nailed the mark. But the overall composition, to see this like as a pencil sketch, I'd say, oh, great layout, dude. But like I said, it's got a real digital feel to me. But overall, I think it's cool. I think it's nothing too exciting. I wouldn't get too excited about it, but I do say it's above average. And I'm with Simeon. I put down 3 for this as well.
All right, 3. Good score. A little above the serviceable grade as we get.
Yeah.
David, you gotta save me. How do you feel about this cover yourself?
Well, first off, I don't want Kenny making me feel inferior and less intelligent, so I'm going to go ahead and join him in his look tonight. But it hurts my eyes to do so. These are dollar store, by the way. Okay, so the cover. First of all, Kenny, just the 2 sons, they're part of the property. Trust me on that one.
What planet? Every planet has 2 sons?
If you ever watch the opening of Star Wars, like one of the very first scenes is Luke praying with 2 sons. But anyway, yeah, Tatooine has 2. So this cover, I'm a little disappointed they didn't put the bracket around Star Wars. I don't mind them using the regular font, but put the yellow bracket around it. I know the yellow probably wouldn't show up too well with this, but make it orangey or something. I think it would have been kind of cool because it kind of looks like it's floating around out there. But maybe that's indicative of Ben's new role in Tatooine. You know, he's just kind of floating there, and we read about that more in there. I really dig the bottom portion. It's almost like a heist flick, right? Like Ocean 8 meets The Dirty Dozen or something. You know, everyone's armed for the teeth, and they even got their faithful pit frog down there. So that part's cool. I like the shading of them. Like they're almost standing in Kenobi's shadow, so the fronts of them would be kind of hard to see, right? So that's kind of interesting. Maybe a little tidbit. The one part I don't really care for much is Ben's face. I would have preferred that he kind of had been a little more shadowed. At least half his face had been shadowed. Maybe he had his head a little more in profile. If I'm understanding this correctly, I believe the artist did try to render both McGregor and Guinness's face into like this amalgamation here because it's like the a little past middle-aged Ben right here. So I can really appreciate that. It does seem to have more Guinness's eyes. But I would have just preferred a more shaded picture instead of him doing the glamour shot there. And I also like how they don't show the hilt of the lightsaber here, actually. And it's kind of a subdued color, which is kind of cool. It almost makes it look like it's a third sun, right? And these things burn as hot as the sun. So I think that's either a nice accidental touch or just a intentional touch. But whatever the case may be, I kind of dig it. I like the scudded clouds in the back. I'm gonna go a little bit higher. I'm gonna go 3.5 on this one, but I would have rated it higher if he'd maybe been a little more in profile because he's a brooding character, right? And I don't think he'd be posing like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it 3.5. Not the best in the world, but I kind of dig it. It grabs you. Should I keep talking?
Encore.
All right, let's talk about this all over again. Back here, the two sons of Tatooine behind him is Ben Kenobi. One might remember him.
Sorry, guys.
Outside, like, oh. I get rid of that now.
Sorry, my cat started dragging wrapping paper all across the floor. I was like running after him. It's like, stop that, you dumb. Anyway, enough said. I'll clean that up later. So yeah, three is like it seems to kind of be the score. Let me hit my solo layout. All right. So, I agree with a lot of what you guys said. Like, I'm a Casty fan. As modern artists go, he's, definitely one of those ones that always wows me a lot. Well, I think he kind of phoned it in here, right? I mean, Kenny, you're going to make my freaking head blow up, asking about two sons. Is that part of the thing? Like, Tatooine, man. It's like Luke's home planet. It's the first scene in the first movie. You and I are going to have a meetup in Star Wars, make you watch all 9 episodes of the movies.
I got a big movie room in West Virginia.
So yeah, I mean, it does render good. The guys in the bottom are kind of cool. I like the little squat, crazy guy down there. Yeah, Tatooine is full of, it's a planet run by gangsters, and Mos Eisley is a hive of scum and villainy, as it were, right? So, he's trying to convey that kind of, there's some sort of danger on there, and obviously this is going to be a story centered around Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? So how that plays out, because we know that by the time this comic book comes out, and in this series, Obi-Wan has died in the movies. This takes place after Return of the Jedi, this series. But yeah, like some of it's good. I think Kenny said it right, like where it's like too digital, right? Like it's like I think he really was like, man, I'm under the gun to do this Star Wars thing. I'm not really into it. Let me just drop a quick Ben Kenobi face and some crazy guys, and we'll put a sunset. And here's give me my $10,000, Marvel, like or whatever they charge for a cover print. But I thought it was good. But like I said, I think Cassie could do a lot better than that. And I only gave it a 2.5 myself for my cover pick. And yeah, 2.5, serviceable. Tells me what's going on, but I've seen a lot of his work, and I know like that cover could have had a lot more potential than what was presented to us. But it is what it is. Who knows what was going on at that time for him. So now comes the part of the show where we ask you guys, the chat out there, to send us your grades of how you feel the cover looks. All right. and we're going to chat amongst ourselves.
First of all, you call yourself a fan. It's a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
It is a wretched hive. Oh, you make me nervous now, David.
The nerd boots are getting thick tonight, baby. Yeah.
It is a hive of some kind, and Obi-Wan is there. So, anyways, where was I? Grades, chat grades. That's what we need. So, will you guys go ahead and please submit a grade for us and what you feel that the cover was? I was trying to get the this guy.
Oh, right. I'll scroll up to the cover. Oh, yeah. There was a ton of variants. Want to see all the variants real quick? Stormtrooper action figure. This one, which is probably my favorite of the variants. That. I think that's the interior. Yeah. Black and white.
These variant covers are better than the.
Yeah.
See, I might have been seeing symbolism that wasn't even there. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but just a couple things in there I liked. So.
Cool. Yeah, like I said, Cassidy can do a lot better than this. I think just kind of like the police lineup or whatever of the villainy guys here, and then they're good, but they could have been bigger. And Obi-Wan could have been like doing something, right? Not just standing there with the tattooed suns in the back.
What I liked was from reading the letters pages. Apparently, Cassidy drew some the interiors for the majority of the first 6 issues.
Yeah,
and it's maybe incidental as well. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No, it's all right. I'm not going to go dig them out to check that, but
I was going to say I don't know if it's intentional or not, but if you notice there too, Obi-Wan is actually in Qui-Gon's stance, which is also kind of interesting.
Old master stance.
Better black and white. Matt said he likes the black and white better. I tend to agree before you get the color on there.
Yeah. So you guys at all interested in any of the streaming shows that they've been announcing?
I don't watch anything with Disney, but
I'm only aware of Mandalorian. Why did they spin off the what's her name?
Ahsoka Tano. She was announced today.
Wow.
Like Obi-Wan, Cassian Andor, the Bad Bunch, which is like a group of characters from the Clone Wars saga from the cartoon, but they're going to do a live action of them. They're an interesting group. They're like, you know how all the Star Wars clones were cloned from Boba Fett or Jango Fett originally. Like they're all clones. All those guys are clones. But every once in a while, they had a clone that had a genetic defect. But some of the genetic defects were good, right? And they took all these guys and kept them in a group of the special forces called the Bad Bunch. There you go. Star Wars. I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, I just know that Ahsoka Tano episode of Mandalorian was badass. I know that much.
Have you been watching The Mandalorian?
Yes, I love it.
Oh yeah, Mandalorian rocks.
Yeah, really good. The score is so good on that show too. Like,
oh yeah,
everything.
Ahsoka Tano was amazing. Like
that, yeah, woo.
Rosario Dawson killed it.
What a way to! The first 10 minutes of that episode, I was like, "What am I watching? This is crazy." It's really good.
So I have high hopes for there's going to be a Boba Fett one as well. There's going to an Obi-Wan Kenobi one, and then there's a possibility that there's another one from a book series that's going to call The High Republic, and it's about 100 years ago, 200 years ago, when the Jedi were at their height. And there's tons of Jedi, and they're the Sith is at their height too, and so there's a huge amount of fighting and all sorts of stuff, and that's a huge project that Disney's putting together called Project Luminous, which has comic books, novels, a streaming show, possible animated show, and a theatrical release movie.
Making it rain money.
It's they're going hardcore nuts on Star Wars. 10 new properties announced. Crazy. Anyways, what did the chat come up with grade?
Let me Sorry, I should have been doing the math while that was going on. Give me 1 second. 3.
Yeah, like if you guys are interested in spec comics at all, grabbing Star Wars keys right now is a good idea, right? Like even if you're just gonna hold on to them and flip them.
Seems that way.
Just from watching Comic Tom and then JP's 6-month look back, I know those Star Wars variants, especially the ratio variants, man, collectors just jam them.
Yeah, like even today, there's like I was just mentioning that High Republic. Well, her first appearance happened in the Knights of Kylo Ren #3, and there's a 1 in 25 variant of that, and I think people are asking, around $400 for it right now. Like and that's today. Like yesterday, they were asking 150.
Martha Stewart got arrested for stuff like that. But so Jack came basically with the same kind of grade we got. They came in with a solid 3. It was 2.9. So
there you go. It's not a terrible cover, but
No.
yeah, kind of like I know this could be better. Anyway, we'll continue on. Let's stick with the art for right now. All right, the story has a different flavor to it, I think, than the art in some ways. So, Ken, you're up. Please don't make my head explode.
don't mention anything about suns. Don't mention anything about suns.
I can't promise that.
Or their laser swords.
I'm gonna be like, yeah. Apparently, Obi-Wan's part of some sort of like group of guys.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave a little screen share assistance on that.
Yeah. Oh,
see? Okay. And I'm showing it digitally, which is kind of appropriate for this computer-generated comic. Let's see. I mentioned it on the cover that it had a digital feel to it. It's a pretty safe bet that this is drawn on like a tablet, and we're not dealing with pencil and inks. Like I don't even think it was pencil and inks that got digitally colored. Is my sense. I feel like this thing was drawn front to back and digitally because it lacks soul, man. As I go through it, the things that strike me are the first thing that struck me in this book is Ben's legs, dude. I don't know. It looks like he either has really small legs, or he's like those kids that sag their pants like just above their knees, and got like that look going. So I was always distracted by the extreme sag and what looks to me as miniature legs of our boy Ben. I thought that was interesting. I felt like there was light on detail. I'll highlight this panel here of him walking with, I guess, Tatooine behind him. And just looks like a lot of shapes and very minimal detail in that background. I don't feel like it's very well rendered. This seems like deadline work. I don't feel heart and soul in this thing. I think this is guys needing to knock stuff out. A lot of flat angles. When we review stuff like, Burn and Buscema, we're seeing like these interesting use of like the camera angle, right, on the panels. And this one is all just, if we were to use the camera analogy, film student 101, where he would pose the camera. It's all just really straightforward angles and viewpoints. So there's not a lot of cool perspective moves that kept me interested. There wasn't a lot of detail for me to examine, especially if you're like in a cool city. If you get a scenery shot, I like to spend a minute examining the background and looking at the detail, but there isn't much of that here. And none of the bodies have like really good form to them. Like, I guess it's all because they're everyone's wearing robes and shit, but a lot of just I don't know, a lot of muscle tone and stuff. I guess I was surprised because I'm familiar with some of this guy's work, and I think his pencil and ink game is a bit stronger. I do like the nighttime color scene. I like this blue tint that's in this desert scene is cool. So some of the coloring I'm okay with. I think that I can smell the digital on the line work in the rendering more than the coloring because I'm used to modern comics being digitally colored. That doesn't really bother me that much. I just feel like this thing is rendered in a digital way, and you don't get a lot of that detail. Like this shot here, to me, I don't know. Just I don't feel like it's rendered as tight as it could. And I will end on this last page to remind you of the many legs that I was referring to. Look at those little legs on this guy. I laughed when I came to this page because I don't know if I'm the only one that sees that, but I didn't like it, man. I felt like this was I didn't feel much passion with it. I felt like it was let's knock this thing out. There were some cool moments, but largely unimpressed. I gave it a 1, man. I gave it a 1.
Ooh.
I always knew Kenny was a leg man.
A 1. Wow. Yeah, well, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I guess 1's a valid score. All right, David, how did you feel, sir? How do you feel about the interior of this book today?
Well, in order to get a full grasp of that, you need to look kind of who worked on this book. Heather Antos is an editor here. C.B. Kukbolski himself is on this book. Axel Alonso, 3 people who helped torpedo Marvel Comics as we know it. So don't expect a lot from the art department here. I think these people all think everyone wants digital art. Oh, that's the wave of the future. It's new, right? And it's cheaper for us to buy the art. So that's what everyone likes. I got to agree with a lot of what Kenny says, but I'm not going to be quite as harsh on it because it's kind of funny is as soon as I opened this book from like this on, I thought I was reading a Dark Horse comic. Like a lot of the panel layout is like a lot of long rectangles, a lot of breaking of panels, I'm sorry, wrong side. A lot of breaking of panels like this. And it just set up a lot like that. Some of the color scheme too. So, and I did like how he's always taking the 2 suns in the background. I did like that. So he must be getting paid extra to use a lot of CAD yellow or something. But I like that. It's a nice thing. And there's a couple of really cool panels in here. Even though he kind of gave him like the Jesus pose in here. I'm not really crazy with that. I don't know if he was going that vibe or whatever. But I like the ones at night a little bit better. And I love this panel for some reason. The 2 flashlights as they're looking for Luke out there. I think it's a really cool shot. Simple as it is. I like things like that. And the one below it where Luke is in the headlights, I think that's a pretty interesting panel and really cool looking. So there's some things to be had here that I do like, but it's just not really my art style. It is. This one's so digital it hurts. But the muted, I think some people will be turned off by the muted color tones, but that is in keeping with the planet Tatooine. It's a desert planet. A lot of people wearing flowing robes, so you're not going to see a lot of body definition, a lot of tans and colors like that. So that's cool. And he did capture Mos Eisley. Some of what you're talking about there, Kenny, if you look at the Star Wars movies, like when they show the bigger cities, a lot of the buildings look very organic. And so you capture a lot of the domes and all that and the pillar kind of style that would be around there. So I don't dig him for that. But yeah, some of the backgrounds are exceedingly simple. But, sometimes simple works. Panels like this don't need too much. You don't want to see tons of cross-hatching on the dwelling or whatever to try and make it look like it was good. So I'm going to kind of go middle of the road with this one and give like a 2.5. I mean, it's not my art style at all, but there's enough interesting panels in there that I won't dig it too bad. One thing I do wish, though, for this book is if not everything was so close. If things had pulled back a little bit, I think it would look a lot cooler because every shot of Ben Kenobi is like right up on him. And most of the action scenes are the same way. So I'd prefer to pull the camera back a little bit. But so 2.5, I mean, nothing spectacular. But I mean, as far as digital art goes, I guess it's okay. So yeah, 2.5, serviceable.
All right, I'm going to give it a whack. 2.5 is a good enough score, I suppose. No, you know what? I mostly agree with what these guys are saying. A lot of this interior art could have been really rendered out better, especially if you're dealing with like digital. I know that they can play with angles in a big way, much more in the digital. Like I'm thinking back to what was that comic that Kenny picked? Was it X-Force?
Yeah.
Yeah, X-Force #1, and some of those great like angle shots of Deadpool diving off a tower and all kinds of crazy stuff that artist put in it. And you look at this stuff, and Dave's right; it's all right up front, right in your face. Looks like a whole bunch of portrait shots in a lot of this stuff, right? There are some good stuff, good scenes. Like, where was I looking at? There's like a background scene. I'll find it. Keep talking. But a lot of these scenes, like you got to keep the muted tone. Tatooine has 2 suns. It's a desert planet. Everything's tan. Like everything's tan and sand colored, right? All over the place. So there's not. I think he did a good job, like kind of keeping in the way the movies looked, the way those backgrounds in the movies looked, very much looked like what they had here for Tatooine. But I mean, even that that scene there at the market. Look at all those people in the market and stuff, right? So he's not being lazy, but he's got a weird. He's trying to, pull back the camera, give us a few little, wow shots. There's no huge like any wow page, like the splash pages. It's not really, doesn't really have a big splash page in there, other than this one at the end, which doesn't particularly wow me. But this last page was Luke in the X-wing flying along. That's a good page. I like that page, right? I love that X-wing in there. But that's literally the last page on this book. So I can see, like, for me, it has a very Star Wars Tatooine feel. But yeah, Dave is also right in that it really feels like you're like right up in Obi-Wan's face and all of this stuff. Right? And there's a few little confusing things in the night scene. Like here, this panel where these guys are like being crushed from above. Like obviously Obi-Wan is taking the Force, and you're like, wait a minute, is that a rock, or is that the shape of Obi-Wan, or is that the other robot that he had in the air? No, I think it's a rock, right? Like it's kind of one of the. It's very ambiguous. It's not defined enough, and so a lot of times I was struggling to be like in the night panels. What am I looking at here? Am I looking at this guy from behind? Is that he's like way half shadowed, and his hands in front of his face and weird stuff like that. Like, so I thought, could have been better. Got me through the story. I did struggle a little bit with trying to figure out what was going on. I think Obi-Wan's costume's okay. Like, yeah, maybe a little bit of weird kind of bent knee from the knee down, a little bit short. I don't know. But yeah, I thought it was okay. I actually only gave it a 2. Right, it got me through the book, but definitely could have used a few splash pages or something to really pull me in and wow me on, Blanchetti's artwork here. Apparently, he's really, really famous guy in Italy, right? But I don't think he brought the thunder in this one. Anyways, yeah, 2 for me. All right, Unruly Sir, you're going to be up, man. This is not like the best comic. I should have picked a better one and introduced you guys to Star Wars comics.
You convinced me Star Wars stinks. No.
What's that? All right. Unruly, sir, how did you feel about the interior art of this guy?
Well, I agree with you about that one panel you pointed out with the being crushed, because it was the page before it. It's this dude who's threatening Luke.
Yeah.
And then you turn the panel and there's 2 of them being crushed side by side. Where was that other guy? Blah, 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 blah. But I really like the design of Boba Fett's henchmen. I like them all because I don't know what the hell they are. I think that's pretty cool. And y'all have all 3 of y'all touched on some of the coloring. It's a desert planet. But there's nothing in the desert, so I'm not expecting a lot from the background. And I think where he could put something in there he did it pretty well. I actually like this art. I think it was more than serviceable. I love the colors. I love the yellows and oranges and browns for the desert, and I love the blue, the different shades of blue to denote night. I really like that whole night scene where Luke is, trying to steal the water back, and then Ben comes along and messes up the henchmen. Like I said, really like the designs of the henchmen, and until you pointed it out, Kenny, I didn't notice that freaking Hank Hill's dad is playing freaking Obi on here.
I didn't either.
And like you said, Dave, this freaking, I just, I can draw a little bit. I can draw people fairly well, particularly comic book poses,
Ooh.
but I've never been able to render buildings or machinery. And I know there's probably tricks to it, particularly in digital, but it still impresses me whenever I see somebody draw a decent spaceship. And he did all the floaters on the planet very well. The name escapes me at the moment. I liked it. I enjoyed the art. It's the first time I've heard of this cat, but I've never, that I'm aware of, read anything by him. I give it a 3.5. I like the art.
Nice. Yeah, maybe I'm just like hoping too much for big lightsaber battles or something in here, right? That just didn't really fit into the story.
Wasn't even a blaster shot.
How about let's go to the chat. We'll get their grades on the matter. The most important grade of the day, of course. We'll bring up some of the interior. Can you just scroll around?
I will do that.
Close. Yeah, there we go. One of those things I had to figure out. Right, so if you guys could give us a grade for what you feel the interior art looked like. Kenny's doing a little bit of a scroll on the screen there. Did it wow you? Did it like disappoint you? Did it fit in your ideals of what a Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi book should look like? All right.
Yeah, I was skimming some of this guy's. I had heard of him. I don't know how much interior comic work he's done, but I was kind of aware of him. But I brushed up on some of his like commission work that's online and stuff, and yeah, I think there is maybe a detachment with digital because he's a legit artist. This book doesn't really do him justice, it seems, for what he's capable of, but this dude has some pretty legit commission work out there that you can look up. Simone Bianchi.
Yeah, not just
Va bene.
comic book stuff, but he's done album covers and all kinds of stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
But maybe he's not a Star Wars fan. Maybe he just was like, "What am I drawing here? Like, what is all this?" Right? Not everybody's into it. I understand. Like, when I started my YouTube channel, a couple of years ago, I had a choice. It was either going to be Star Wars or it was going to be comics, and I was like, "Well, I don't know." It was pretty close to being Star Wars.
Well, if you'd been Star Wars, you'd be 100,000 subs by now.
Yeah, probably. It'd be like you're rolling in Ferraris by now.
Well, yeah, slave girl imposters all through your house. It'd have been something. Mm-hmm.
Oh, another like really good writer that had an announcement today. Brian K. Vaughan. Everybody's heard of Brian K. Vaughan.
Sure.
I guess he's writing the script for a Buck Rogers movie. How crazy is that?
Is Aaron Gray going to cameo or what?
That'd be cool, man.
She was in a Friday the 13th movie, by the way. Fun fact. Jason Goes to Hell, yeah. She was Jason's sister that we never knew about until that movie.
Aaron Gray and those skin-tight pants.
Oh, yeah. Commander Deering.
Got many people through the 70s. Yep. She was like 7 to 9 before 7 to 9 was cool. Before they had cat suits on everybody.
Because Brian K. Vaughan, she might be in it, but I doubt you'll see like Dr. Theophilus or Bucky or anything.
I can dig a good Buck Rogers movie.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. Just make a new property, people. My gosh. I like nostalgia. My whole channel's nostalgia. I like nostalgia's next to it, but make some new properties. Gosh, man.
All right.
Disney is attaching their horse to the cart of we're going to do everything that's made money in the past and we were never going to innovate again. Live action remakes. That's all they do now. All they do is Star Wars knockoffs. All they do is Marvel stuff.
Buck Rogers isn't a Disney property. It's a legendary figure.
Oh,
I just heard that one too. And you know what other rumor I heard about Marvel was apparently they're going to pick up where they left off, start again, the old 90s X-Men cartoon.
Ooh, give me that.
I know, right?
Like with intro, maybe I'll do the intro song on my channel too.
If they don't do the intro, it'd be brutal.
Yeah, they must. And dude, I checked out they revised Animaniacs, which I know was like I feel like that's right in my generation of because I used to watch that as like a kid, like early '90s. Animaniacs had a good run, and they brought that back on Hulu, and it's great. Animaniac, Pinky and the Brain, they pull it off.
The Brain.
So I'm down for the cartoon reboots. Yes.
Hey, I was a grown man and loved Animaniacs.
Yes, good. It doesn't get much fanfare, I think, as it deserves.
I got into it. My youngest brother, he used to watch it, and I'd watch it with him all the time. It was funny.
It is.
All right, so let's move along, and we'll do the story of the.
Hold on, we need a chat grade first. MC.
Chat grade, right?
Chat grade. In its infinite wisdom, the chat agrees with me, and it gave it a 2.5. Serviceable.
Serviceable.
Well done, chat. Well done. That's one lightsaber up for you. All right.
All right. So moving along to the story then. The meat of the book. I know like comic books, pretty much about the artist, but it also has a lot to do with, is the story entertaining? Did it bring me in there? Did it, leave me flat? Am I bored with what's going on here? Do I feel like reading another issue? David, we're going to start with you this time, my friend. How did you feel about the story on this one?
Just Wayne reminded me of the Bologna in my slacks. Yeah. A good intro song. They had very creative intro songs back then. Now I got the stupid Tiny Toon Adventures song stuck in my head rolling around. Thanks a lot. Okay, so the story. This reminds me a lot of the last book we reviewed, the Punisher story that I got. Not too verbose. It's simple, but it mostly works to convey the story pretty well, I'd say. I don't know if it was intentional. Once again, sometimes I see symbolism where it isn't there. But I almost think that they kept the dialogue to a minimum to kind of reflect Obi-Wan's state. Because he's alone. He's a hermit. Who's he really talking to? Maybe he'll have some internal dialogues every now and then, but there's not a ton of that in this book either. But what you do hear is mostly internal dialogues until Luke comes in the picture, right? It's nothing groundbreaking here. And I would like to see maybe a little bit more imagination when it comes to, the lost tapes, as it were, of Obi-Wan's sojourn on Tatooine. There's so many things you could do. He could be fighting Sarlacc. He could be fighting. Maybe there's one job was Rancors. Got to wait. He had to protect some moisture farmers, but moisture farmers do come into play, like Lars and her wife and all that. But there was something I was gonna kind of tied in with the art a little bit. I can't remember. Oh, so I like this panel here quite a bit, and it kind of harkens back to the first movie when Obi-Wan has great sway with the Force. He can make people do and say things, right? So he does the same thing he did to the Stormtrooper in the first one with these Jabba guards, but even more like in keeping with his current state, because he's kind of a broken guy in this before the very end, I mean, he's exiled and he's watching out for Luke somewhat, but he's lost, he's completely lost. He's lost his entire order. He's lost his family. He has no meaning in life. He's not even like a practicing Jedi anymore. And they show another scene. I'll get back to this panel where he is meditating amongst a bunch of cattle bones, really simple things, right? He's a really high ranked Jedi. He's a master, right? So this should be nothing for him. And he loses focus, concentration, and everything drops down. Once again, reminiscent kind of Luke in the training scenes of Empire Strikes Back, right? But what the funny thing about Ben in this book is he's not even carrying his lightsaber, right? So he's like completely at the mercy of these people. Well, he winds up destroying them later when he gets pissed off, but He doesn't really kill anybody, but it's cool. So like he tells this guy to not only like leave and go back without gathering the water. He's like also tells me to get out of my way, old man. And the guy sticks a gun in his face. He sits there and takes it. You know, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi Master, and he's just sitting there taking it. So it's a guy who's completely lost everything. He's no longer General Kenobi. He says it in here. You know, I'm just Ben. I'm just Ben. I'm some dude. So as simplistic as it is, I kind of like it because this thing could have been like an introspection fest. And they could have tried too hard. I would like to see maybe a little more creativity with some more things other than him just walking around and kind of moping a little bit. But I don't know. It was okay. I'm going to give it a 3 as well. I think it worked well for the story. Once again, maybe it was just, I saw the editing staff on there, so maybe it was just piss poor writing or whatever, or lazy writing. But I almost think it's trying to convey, like, with as few words as possible what's going on in Ben's world, just to kind of get you into his frame of mind. So I'll give it a 3 on that assumption. But it just did what it needed to do. You know, it pushed the story forward. And at the very end, it's kind of leaves it open. It's like, okay, now we can learn about the adventures of Ben Kenobi reading out the diary. So it's not too bad. So I give it a 3.
Nice. Okay. 3 on the story. I'm going to go next here. Pop myself up. So for me, I think the story, you know, was better than the art, right? Like, he does a really good job. Like, if you know anything about Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know that Obi-Wan Kenobi is the Captain America of Star Wars. He is Captain Goody Two-Shoes, the goodest of the good Jedis, all the way through. He always does the right thing if he can. Never sways in his belief in the good of the Force and the good of the world. So for him to watch villains suppress an entire village of people, possibly having them, you know, dehydrate to death, right? You know, and not have any water, because that's what's happening here in this. It creates this like crazy sense that, you know, we're on a desert planet. Water is an extremely precious commodity, and in a drought in a desert, what they considered, you know, a drought in a desert, there's like almost no water. Like you use machines out in the field to bring in whatever moisture they can in the air, and they're barely getting enough. And Jabba's going around with his henchmen stealing their water, right? And so every time their water gets stolen, there's a good possibility that people are going to die. And for Obi-Wan Kenobi to sit back and be like, no, there's a bigger good involved here, right? Like, he knows that Luke has to be kept safe because Luke is the one that will defeat evil and bring. He is the real chosen one. He's the one that will bring balance to the Force, right? But for him to watch that happen, you know, watch innocent people suffer, that's just like so hard for Obi-Wan Kenobi to handle. I can just feel it in this book, and it kind of feels like that too, because you're waiting like, Obi-Wan, kick their butt. Like, these guys are like, you know, being, you know, dicks. So like they're killing people and they're doing this stuff. You got to do something. Like, you got to do something, and he's really, you know, doing his best to just protect Luke. You know, keep it on the down low, make sure that nobody realizes that he's a Jedi. If anybody ever got wind that he was a Jedi and that got back to the Empire, you know, Vader would be there, like, right away, right? And it would put Luke completely at risk. So he's trying to keep his hiding going. He's afraid for Luke. He's afraid to use his powers. And you just feel like this sense of like, damn, man, like, do it, right? Finally, he kind of gets a sneaky bit where he thinks he can take these guys out without getting, you know, caught as a Jedi, and he does. He saves Luke. He has to do it to save Luke's life. He's kind of forced to use his Jedi powers, and yeah, I think he does a great job of conveying that whole thing of like, you're feeling in there like you want Obi-Wan to like kick butt, and then if you know who Obi-Wan is, if you're a Star Wars fan, you're like, man, this guy is like holding back everything, because Obi-Wan Kenobi is also one of the most powerful Jedis out there as well. He could take Jabba down, no problem, on his own, right? But to do that would bring way too much attention to the whole situation and put Luke in jeopardy. So Obi-Wan has to do the right thing. And I think they did a very good job in the story of conveying that, keeping with the Star Wars idea, you know, keeping that whole thing of like, you know, what was Obi-Wan doing? Obi-Wan can't just sit on his butt, but he was, right? Like, he had to. But at the end, he kind of laments and be like, okay, I got to do something, right? Because Luke showed me that everybody has to do something, right? So kind of gives a little bit of backstory on Luke. Like Luke wasn't just farming; he knew he had some sort of Jedi destiny going. Anyways, for the story, I gave it a 4. I liked it a lot. I like this series a lot, so I gave it a 4 on the story. Whew. Did I meta-rog that one? Did I speak too much? Someone's got to do it today. We're gonna without Roger here, man. We're gonna end the show in like 45 minutes.
Hey, he's in the chat too. We love you, Roger. Well, I can be a little more verbose if you like, but
that's okay. No, I'm just kidding. It really is where it is.
I'll pull a Friday night hangouts here. We'll be here for 5 hours.
The last the Graders crew to chime in on the story, but the best of the Graders crew. Unruly Simeon, how did you feel about the story today, sir?
All right, I like Jason Aaron. I love Scout. I like his Thor stuff, and that's all I've read of him. So I was expecting to be super impressed. But to me, this was more like a setting up. You know, it was now see, it was cool to see you fanboying out there, Miracle. It really was. See, I don't know, man. They're on Tatooine because it's a backwater, right? It's a desert planet. It's presumably not that big a deal. I don't see why. First of all, he should have been training Luke. To hell with what the aunt and uncle wanted. Second of all, I think he could have taken Jabba out. If Jabba is a direct threat to the whole community, such as it is, which Luke is a part of, then he should have taken him out. I get the feeling that, and I haven't read any of the previous issues or none of the subsequent ones, but I get the feeling he's just isolated and alone and unsure of what to do. And who can blame him? You know, he's literally the last Jedi insofar as he knows. And he's just wallowing in his own self-pity. That's the impression I got. It was a serviceable story. I'll say this: it was far from the best I've ever read of Jason Aaron, but I definitely want to read more. I think this Omni came out last year, and I heard from more than one person that it was definitely worth reading. So I'm going to see if I can find a copy. So I would give it just a flat, serviceable 2.5.
All right. Well, I get that, right? Like a lot of this story feels like they're setting up for something. Like Luke just read one chapter, and there's a whole bunch of more chapters to come of more adventures that Obi-Wan has. Well, that kind of leads me to want to keep reading into the series to see if I get more Obi-Wan out of it. How did the chat feel? I don't know if we explained the story enough. If you've read it yourself, if you just kind of got a gist of what was going on with it, how did you feel about story of Obi-Wan out on his own on Tatooine?
Let him know, Gino.
The nature boy demands his podium, my friend. He can't be out there stealing wives and girlfriends if you don't get a chance to speak.
No, I still got to chime in, Miracle. I haven't hit yet. I'm next up. I'm the last one.
I didn't share with you. Oh, brother, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I warned you at the beginning. Technicalities that we're going to be right with this thing. I get so discombobulated sometimes.
He didn't mean it. He just valued your opinion so little that he didn't think about it.
No. I don't think that. I could use the digital assistance for a couple points here.
Got it.
So a couple kind of takeaways here. So I'm coming to this without any nostalgia and not coming to it with much nostalgia or even too much knowledge of what's like. I definitely didn't pick up on a lot of those cues that you were putting down about the backstory of Ben. So that's where I came to this with. The plus side is I too got vibes of that Punisher book that we reviewed recently. It didn't do anything too impressive to me. but it told a straightforward story and kept it moving. You know, it doesn't really bog down at any point, and it's like a straightforward hero little adventure, a little hero adventure. You know, that's what I took from it, and it didn't bog me down. So I like that. What I didn't like is it just felt real predictable to me. It was a little paint by numbers. Like pretty much like in the first couple pages, they establish the drought and Jabba's goons are taking all the water. So boom, you establish your threat, your conflict. Here comes Ben, and in 2 pages, Ben says, "It's been 10 years since I touched a lightsaber. I haven't done my Jedi thing in such a long time. In fact, it's a shame that I'm not even able to look out for my old pal Luke." So like, okay. So I would imagine that by the end of the story, he's going to touch him a lightsaber. He's going to get his Jedi groove back, and he's going to help out Luke, you know? And I'm not saying that to like that I have premonition skills. I don't think I'm even that intuitive of a reader. They just kind of laid it down all in that one page, that page and a half, and they kind of just proceeded to unfold what I kind of thought they would. So, you know, it was basically that. A little paint by numbers, and if I'm being honest, I think I didn't feel much passion and that it was more than a job on the art, and I kind of feel that way about the story too. I felt it was a little formulaic, but perhaps that's because I didn't come to it with some of the built-in stuff about Obi-Wan and about some of the situation that maybe I would have maybe appreciated a bit more, you know. But on surface, on face level of the story, I kind of just took it as a fairly paint by numbers, Stella got her groove back-esque story. And I gave it a 2.
2, really? You know, a lot. I agree, and I don't criticize Star Wars very often, but I will criticize this: is that a lot of Star Wars comics make big assumptions that you're a Star Wars fan and you have all the multiple backstories of everything. Star Wars is just as convoluted as Marvel Comics and their backstories with superheroes, their guys, right? And you have to know, like, oh, this guy was on planet BBY X4, and like, you know, at this time,
those waters are deep.
Some stuff, like I think a planet with 2 suns. You know, even my 3-year-old niece probably knows what Tatooine is, but
yeah.
But so now we can go to now for real. We'll go to the chat and we'll ask for some grades. You guys give us your grade on what you felt like the story was. I mean, some of us give better remarks. The guys at Disney feel it's good enough to have a streaming show based off of. So you bring that with what you will. But yeah, if the chats give us their grades.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not like Simeon kind of preface. I'm not like a Star Wars hater. I think it's cool. It's like space opera, swords. It's got like a samurai element to it. It's got, you know, spaceships and gunslinger element to it. I've always liked the aesthetic of. They're like one of the first times that I've seen, like, I think the word for it is like used futuristic, where it's like a lot of times you'd see like spaceships and futuristic devices, and it's all like sleek and clean. And Star Wars is like a used, rusty old spaceship, and like I like that used feel of the world. It's cool.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And you know, it adds an element not only to like just the feel of the world, but to the characters themselves. When you see them flying around, like, you know, rough ships and stuff, you know, they're not hoity-toity rich guys and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Well, when Star Wars came out, all right, back then movies didn't necessarily debut countrywide. They'd roll them out on the West Coast and they'd come east, and occasionally vice versa. So we were reading about it in the paper, like, you know, movie sells out for 12 straight weeks in Texas. And my old man was like, My old man's a big science fiction head. And he was like, the second that movie, we were in Jacksonville at the time, the second this movie comes out, we're going to see it. And it blew us away. We saw it 3 Fridays in a row.
Nice.
I mean, but see, my whole deal was when Revenge and Return came out, I was overseas for both of them and didn't get to watch until the early 90s. I think if I'd have seen those when they came out, I might be as big a Star Wars geek as exists.
And I remember going to see like Return of the Jedi was like one of the first movies my dad ever like took me to, that kind of deal, 1983, and like a real movie. I mean, like I'd gone to see like Disney cartoons and stuff, like kids stuff, but that was like a real movie, and I was just like, oh my god, spaceships and big giant worm guys, and like look at that Rancor monster, you know. Like I think it totally hooked me in as a kid.
See, I didn't see the original Star Wars in theaters, but I did see Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. You know, waited in a couple hour lines to do so in my one screen Cineplex that we had in my hometown. So it was a big deal, man. And I was Boba Fett, I think in '83 for Halloween, and so the hype was real, man. It was pretty crazy, and you should hear that audience back in those days when that scroll started. It was on, man. So
when the prequel first came out, I waited in line for 3 days.
Gosh, I didn't like movies that much. It's funny because like a lot of the stuff we're so used to in space operas now, a lot of it came around because of the show, and Lucas had a couple of things really in mind. One of them, someone mentioned earlier, was basically Bushido and all that, and the samurai kind of elements to the movie. There's a lot of martial arts references here and how like the Jedi portrayed. And the other big thing was Joseph Campbell was a huge thing. The hero's journey. You know, you take, this is where movies are so screwed up now. You take a character who is small, helpless, vulnerable, weak, has flaws, and over a course of time, they build themselves into hero status. But no one starts a hero, you know. So George really carefully incorporated that into the movies, which is another reason I think people people can relate to Luke, right? They don't relate to Rey. Not to trash the new ones, but I'm just saying it took Luke a movie and a half, basically 3 movies, to really come into his own. So there was no rush to get him to superstar status. But movies nowadays, they have to be in the first 30 minutes, you know, dominating everything. So it was very carefully crafted. Let's just say that. And
yeah, it's great. And I hated Lucas for tampering with the original.
Listen, remember when they released it in the early 90s? They released 4, 5, and 6 with the digital. I went and saw the first one, and then we were like, nah, I didn't see the next 2 releases. But I've got the original 3 on videotape that aren't monkeyed with. On VHS, they're sitting in my shelf back home.
Make money with those now because no one liked the digital recreation. The one good thing was like in Cloud City, you could see out the windows. It wasn't such a closed set anymore. They put some digital backdrops back there. That wasn't too bad. But like digitized Jabba and all that was awful. And you could see hand shooting first, I guess. So I guess there's that. So
I also have a VHS copy of the original unmessed with version and a VCR that I like keep all wrapped up. And on on Star Wars Day, May the 4th, I always bring it out and watch the original. Hand shot first. VCRs are expensive now. They got real expensive again.
Well, that's all that spec. Well, by the way, the chat comes in with another astute score of 3. So they agree with me as well on the story.
Laser disc.
There it is. I'm only been off by 0.5 this evening. I'm hot. Take me down to the track.
Got the hot hand.
Mm-hmm. Trifecta.
Just reading the chat there, and Jackson Roykirk, he says he's got laser discs of 4, 5, and 6. Cool.
Big ones. Wow.
Is that the one where you get like halfway through the movie, you got to turn it over and like?
I have original DVDs like that. My Amadeus DVDs like that. You got to turn it over halfway.
Really? It's so long.
I got like one of the first DVD players that came out, and one of the first DVDs that was released was that one.
Well, those original laser discs are like the size of like both sides of LP, man. Like they're big.
But they look nice though.
Yeah. All right. So moving along, how did the chat do? What did they come up with? 3, like
they get
just
3. It was 2.9 again, or 2.75, something like that. It was another roundup. So 3.
So here we are, all the way up to the concept already. Concept of this book. sometimes we find with our books, like the concept is much stronger than the execution of what was conceptualized. You know what I mean? Is that the case here? We're going to start with Kenny this time, brother.
Okay.
Just so he doesn't forget you then.
So we didn't
Right.
forget you.
The concept.
You're always first in my mind, so I thought you'd already.
Yeah, yeah.
Aw.
The concept. So I feel like, in my mind, the reason I haven't read a lot of Star Wars comics is because I've always thought of Star Wars as movies, right? And like, even growing up, I've seen Star Wars comics around, but to be honest, and the reason I have like no Star Wars in my collection is like I've always put Star Wars comics in the category of licensed movie stuff, like Transformers comic, Indiana Jones comic, G.I. Joe, Star Trek Next Generation comic, Star Wars comics. Of like, they're not really telling good original stories. They're just adapting movie stuff, and it's like I always just picture jobbers working on them. I mean, maybe this is, I don't know how established Jason Aaron was. I know he's now a big deal, but I don't know if he was like just a jobber at the time of this. But I come into that with this bias. I got to be honest, and I feel like concept-wise, my main feeling on licensed property comics is that they're cash grabs, you know, and I don't know how much like passion goes into really crafting cool original stories. I feel like they tend to be a lot of fan service, and they just cater to a built-in audience that they don't have to earn. And so, not that I felt anything was bad inherently with like the concept of this story. I don't, it sounds like I'm getting the feeling that this is an original story, and they're digging into maybe some uncovered territory of the Sensei Obi-Wan, and maybe that's what the concept is, but I'm not even educated in it enough to know that. My feeling is license cash grab, and that's what the concept is. I guess it's a good idea. Star Wars seems to translate pretty good to comics. I would think, like I said, per the swords and the blasters and the creatures and the heroes, and seems like it would fit the bill. So I can't blame them. I don't think they're trying to put like a square peg in a round hole with Star Wars comics. But that's the sense I get, and I gotta be honest, this comic kind of confirmed that a little bit. I felt like it was lazy writing, and I felt like it was uninspired writing and uninspired art. So this kind of confirmed my bias. I'm sorry. And I felt like the concept was cha-ching, just like these 20 movies they drop in. I'm gonna give it a 1, dude. The concept is cash grab.
Oh man.
Sorry, Miracle.
I don't know if you and I are going to be friends after this. So we're going to move upwards and onwards. David, how did you feel about the concept of this guy?
Well, the concept is twofold here. Kenny is right on a lot of fronts. If you want to print money, you print a Star Trek, anything really, it's going to sell. Bad writers have made a living for 40 years on expanded universe stuff, right? A lot of stuff that spins off from Star Wars is not of the highest quality. Look at the toy lines. The old ones were really high quality, and now it's obvious garbage, right? Same thing. So it's like the NFL, same thing, licensed to make print money. But for the concept of this book itself, just as this book, it's a brilliant concept. Because there's this, for the fan base now, there's this huge dead zone between what we saw in the prequels and what we got in New Hope and all that, right? What was Obi-Wan doing on the planet? That is basically, unless you're reading expanded universe stuff, there's just a world of things you could do with that. You could create a whole series just on that alone. The Adventures of Old Ben Kenobi, who wouldn't buy that as a Star Wars fan? So, while, yes, it's just a straight cash grab and the story doesn't do as much as it could to continue the cash grab, it's Star Wars. People who like Star Wars are going to read it anyway, right? It could be based on Greedo's grandparents. I don't care. But I like the concept. It's a good one because while they did just steal Star Wars, or steal, I'm sure they paid what nose for it. Well, Disney did actually, but it's a good concept. You take something that the real fans want to know about. Now, the casual fans may not care so much. Like if you're fans of the new last 3 movies, whatever, you might not care about old Ben and his adventures, but I, as a fan of old, do care, and I would like to see what he's doing, in this off time. And so, while it's not incredibly original, it's an original idea, and I think they took a notion that, hey, we could write tons of stories here and ran with it. So I'm going to give it pretty high marks. I'm going to give it actually a 4 concept, not 4 because they did anything too original with the book, but with this book, I'm not talking about the rest of the series. I've never read it. I don't know how it actually turned out, but it's a great idea for a book here, and there's just so much you could do with that, and I'd like to see them do more with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and give that part a 4. It's the highest score in the book for me, and just makes lots of sense from a fan standpoint.
Oh my God! I'm sorry to swear like that, but did you just call this Star Trek?
Did I? I look at the chat. They'll call me on that. I'm sorry, I was rolling, man. When you're in stream of consciousness, you just gotta let it flow. And there's,
I like Star Trek. Don't get me wrong. I like Star Trek, but it is not Star Wars.
Do you remember that gag they did in Futurama? You mean the Star Wars Trek? No, I'm talking about the Star Trek Wars.
I slipped the tongue. We'll have to watch that on replay, but I do apologize for if I trekked out. Sorry, I've been thinking about Trek all week because of how Friday night hangouts devolved last week into 2 hours of straight Trek talk. So, plus I'm doing the review series on YouTube. So,
all right, let me hit the concept up here. Get my solo layout. So, I felt like this is a great concept for a book, and I'm pretty sure that's why they're going to pick it up as the premise for their streaming show, right? Because if you're a Star Wars fan, where A New Hope picks up, right, and where the prequel trilogies end and where A New Hope picks up, there's 30 years, or not 30 years, 20 years, right? We're between when Luke starts to come of age and goes off on his big adventure. Obi-Wan had to be doing something, right? He couldn't have just hanging out in a cave, but so I think it was really great. Like, I know a lot of Star Wars fans. There's been a lot of fan fiction written about it, all kinds of stuff. Like they want to know, like, come on, like Obi-Wan is a popular character. Everybody wants to know what was he doing at this time, and so I thought the concept of the book was good. Like, I don't think Star Wars is a cash cow. Like, it's not a cash grab. There's been Star Wars comics since 1977, right? They started producing Star Wars comics pretty much right after A New Hope came out, within a few months, right? And they were putting out all of their stuff for like decades and decades now. And there's always been Star Wars comics, and there's always been a huge amount of Star Wars comics. It's no more of a cash grab than putting out 10 X-Men titles or whatever they do on that kind of stuff these days. Star Wars has just its very own genre, and I think you can't say like putting out a Star Wars series is a cash grab or a movie adaptation any longer, because there's well-established canon, legend, whatever kind of backstory you want to put into it, Star Wars comics. From the original Marvel runs all through the Dark Horse runs, there's stuff by IDW, there's back into the House of Marvel, right, where they're producing Star Wars comics again. So for me, it can't be just it's not a cash grab. Like, especially this series, like just having a regular Star Wars series with Star Wars stories, it's just there's always been that, and you can't say, oh, they've been cash grabbing for 40 some years now, right? Because I think it's very well established that Star Wars has its own comic books. I like the concept. I agree with Dave, and I gave the concept 4. I think that's very interesting to Star Wars fans. I think it's a good idea. Like, even non-Star Wars fans know who Obi-Wan Kenobi is, right? They have an idea of what a Jedi Knight is. So centering a story around him is good too, right? You can bring in people that don't really have a huge amount of the Star Wars backstory, but they always fall short on that, right? When they don't give those people enough. Because then Star Wars fans complain, like, I don't need to have all of Obi-Wan's backstory. I'm a Star Wars fan, but not everybody is, and you got to kind of write a comic to the lowest common denominator. And I think Star Wars sometimes forgets that. But concept-wise of this book, 4 all the way. Could have been better, could have been worse, but definitely a strong concept. How do you feel, Mr. Unruly Simeon? Do you feel the concept of this book was good or lame, y'all?
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, the comics have been running for ages now in various iterations and spinoffs and blah, blah, blah. And it's its own thing. And I have no doubt there's been some really good stuff in its own thing. But it's a cash grab. I mean, wasn't that the first movie that had the incredible success with the licensing? Because I know my little brother was a huge Star Wars freak back in the day. This dude had Star Wars freaking bed sheets and curtains and all the toys. But and I'm sort of like 84. I shy away from movie properties, and that served me wrong a time or two. If that first Aliens miniseries that Dark Horse did, I saw it on the rack and thought, pass. And it was actually damn good. So it's like I said, discussing the story. I want to read more. I can get into this, and I've actually read a couple of Star Wars novels that weren't bad. So I dig it. I dig it. But for this series, I don't know. I'd have to know more. For this issue, I got to give the concept overall a 3. But not a bad 3. I enjoyed it.
You're on mute, Miracle.
Better? There we go.
All right.
3's not bad. I mean, that's above average. Like, the concept of this book is good, especially for Star Wars fans. Like, the more Obi-Wan Kenobi you can give me, the happier I am. Trust me. Even if it's the cash grab, I'll fork over my $3.99.
Look, what can I say? I'm an American. I hate what I don't understand.
What was your grade, Wayne? I'm sorry, I missed it.
A 3.
3. I had to go get this book when you brought it up, so I don't know where this one came from. I can't remember. Some jerk sent it.
Jerk.
Was that the first time they used aliens in comics?
First alien comics.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I sent that to Genome.
It was a great thing. I had first Jason in comics. He sent me first aliens in comics. It's amazing.
Oh, it was Tops, right? Jason? Like Tops comics.
Yeah, it was. It was Tops.
Yeah.
It was Jason Goes to Hell too, who I've actually interviewed the director with, by the way.
I didn't have the comic at the time. Let's find out what the chat thinks. Let's get some grades going on the chat and the right up. I cleared everybody. Yeah, I started with Kenny that time.
Yeah, you're good, man.
What was your grade, Ken? Was it?
Uno.
I thought so. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
2, 1 book. Oh man, harsh.
So yeah, if we could get some chat grades going, that would be great. How did you guys feel about the concept of, finding Obi-Wan's diary and reading about some of his adventures in the past? Or, do you think, he could have done without that little side one-off story?
You know what I'm realizing now is I don't think we had any pre-show discussion about like what's next, who's the next pick, next book.
Oh man, I just jumped right in today. I was all hyped.
Man.
But, yeah, I don't even think it occurred to. Who's next? Do we know?
You.
No, don't say that.
Yeah, you are. You're next.
You had like a month to think about it, brother.
Damn it. All right, tell you what, let the chat do their grade, and I'll be right back.
All right.
Oh man, chat's going off about Hanover Fist, man. For those of you who know,
Hanover Fist. Yeah, what's going on there?
Hanging's too good for him.
I actually just watched that clip. I haven't seen that movie because he had that on VHS. I haven't watched that in forever. I've forgotten how good the ending is. Yeah.
I saw it when it premiered under the influence of hallucinogens. I love that movie.
Was that your face or your yearbook slogan too? Under the influence of hallucinogens. The peyote kid.
I was a little young to go to heavy metal. My dad was not going to fly that, but I have seen it in like a second run theater and the big screen.
Cool.
Yeah, I love the one in the B-2 bomber or whatever. Oh man, that's so amazing. But
yeah, that's Bernie Wright as well.
Was that Bernie Wright? Oh, it's just an amazing skit.
And that the whole they were talking about Corbin because he died in the chat. You know, that whole den segment of heavy metal. I loved it. Loved the voices. Loved the way they adapted it.
That's the one with John Candy.
Yeah.
John Candy would have worked in that, right? But it was perfectly flippant. Hey, speaking of John Candy, did you ever see his Orson Welles impersonation? That's hilarious. Look that clip up sometime.
I will.
He did it on some comedy show. I can't remember what it was. It's really good though.
That's that'll date you, even though if you know if that's a good impression or not. It goes.
Oh, I mean, he voiced Unicron for goodness sake. How can you not like Orson Welles in this community, right?
I know Unicron. He hated the fact that he voiced Unicron. He was like,
didn't he die like not too long after that too? Didn't he?
Yeah, I think that was one of his last things he did. But like my daughter, like she's 20, she would know who Orson Welles is. I'm sure she read Animal Farm in school and stuff, but I doubt she know what he sounds like or what he looks like. I
always remember, he shall serve no wine before it's time. And according to Wayne, this episode of Graders Notes is sponsored by Bud Light. If you'll turn to your right there, Wayne, we can see the logo. Make sure Dave gets his money. On his cap, for those of you who are watching.
You guys, so what do we get for chat grades? What do we have in there?
Tabulate up. That's the last of them. 1, 2, 3. Divided by 4. 3 again, 2.88. I was off on this one. I scored it too high. I flew too close to the sun. Just call me Icarus, baby.
I like the concept. I thought the concept was good. I'd like to see more of what Obi-Wan was doing.
That's a strong enough concept for an entire run of books, not just a one-of or two of. You know what I mean?
Could have been like its own little solo Obi-Wan series.
It's funny too. You mentioned about Obi-Wan being. I'm waiting for Kenny to get back on burning time here. And him like the Captain America, the goody two shoes of it. If for those of you who know anything about Star Wars, like even his lightsaber style is nothing but a defensive style. It's like Sarisu, I think it's called, or something like that. So it's like it's not. He's no attacking kind of guy at all. So it's funny. So he's not even defending in this book, which is also interesting. You know, that's his thing. Usually is defense.
He's like I said, he's Captain Goody Two Shoes. That's for sure. All right. So I guess we're all back in here. Got the cat grade in there. All that's left is the overall. Overall, how did you feel about the book? Did you like it? Are you disappointed that Miracle had to go ahead and pick a dang Star Wars book? Why did you? You're so disappointed that you couldn't even stop by the LCS and flip open and see if it was sitting there and
or get a bad copy like I did.
All right.
Kenny liked it. So.
This time we will go around. We're just going to go around in circles. I'm going to start with you, sir. How did you feel about the overall of this book?
Well, because it makes me want to read more Star Wars comics, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3.5.
Nice. 3.5 is a pretty decent score. I'm going to leave Kenny for last since it's his pick, and he can continue on and talk about his pick for today. So, David, let's hit you up, brother. How did you feel about the overall of this book?
My score was also 3.5. I went with math. I couldn't decide, but it was between a 3 and 3.5. I think that's where this book belongs. It doesn't reinvent the wheel or anything, but I think it's pretty solid. For the cover art, I gave it 3.5. I liked it a little better than basically the rest of the panel did, just because of a few things that I think were worked in, but maybe it was just me making them up. I don't know. There's good points and bad points. I don't like Ben's face. I definitely like the side profile with him and Shadow more to kind of go with the band of bad guys down there. But so 3.5, it got the job done. It just grab your eye a little bit. For the store, or no, we kept interior art next. Interior art, I gave 2.5. It's obviously digital. It's not really my thing, but there was just enough cool panels and layouts in there that I didn't ding it completely. It did stay pretty true to the source material. A lot of earth tones, a lot of muted colors. It makes sense in a desert planet. So that part was all right. So I gave it 2.5. Serviceable completely. It's not my style, but it wasn't horrid either. For the story, I gave it a 3. It did what it needed to do. It didn't get overly verbose. I remember when we did that Captain America 350, that was a chore to get through that book. That was a wall of text on every single panel. And this one was straight to the point. There's entire pages here without any dialogue whatsoever on it. It kept the story moving. It kind of kept in your mind the character of Ben and tried to put you in his place where he was, the decrepit old hermit, right? So I gave it a 3, a little better than average. Concept, I gave it a 4, my strongest score of the night. I think it's a great idea for a book. There's an untapped amount of things you could do with old Ben on the planet before anyone knows who he is. I like to see a drunken sojourn running through Mos Eisley one day, and maybe him waking up in some, Trilestian freaking hooker's bed or something. I think that would have been kind of cool. So gave that a 4. So the strongest one. So the math come back and told me it was a 3.5, and I'm kind of there. I was between 3 and 3.5 anyway on my grade, so objective or subjectively. So yeah, 3.5. Solid read. Solid book.
Thanks. All right, I'll go next. Let's get me in here. Yeah, for me too. Cover, I thought Cassidy could do a little better, but it's not so much the cover itself as that the artist himself I know can do better. So I thought it was a little bit of a phone-in. Few points on there that were good. So I gave the cover like a 2.5. The interior I liked, could have been a little better with some better action shots. I missed, having some good splash pages. Story I really liked. Right, I gave it a full 4 on the story. Concept of the book, I think the concept is smart enough that Disney's willing to put $100 million behind the same concept in a streaming show. So overall, I gave it a 3.5. Right, it's a decent read. Good part of the Star Wars 2015 storyline that they started up, and yeah, 3.5 overall. Kenny, give us your overall, and then let us take a look at what you pulled out of the magic bins to see what we have for
Yes.
next week.
Yes, sir. So by the math, my overall came to a 2, because I gave the cover a 3. The cover was the high point for me from my grades. The art inside, it really just didn't do it for me, man. It was a little too heavily digitized, and I didn't see a lot of passion. It felt like let's get this deadline done thing. So I had to keep it real and keep it low on the art. And the story and concept, some could say my low story and concept grades, which is a 2 and a 1, were informed by my lack of Star Wars familiarity or nostalgia. But I would say, and granted, that might apply to some books. Like if you jump in the middle of, an X-Men book or a Spider-Man book, I suppose if you're not up to speed, you may not appreciate it as much or not understand it as much. But I will stay steadfast in, it's not that I felt like I understood what they were putting down. What I was missing that I think you guys had was I had an understanding of what was happening in the plot, but I guess I didn't feel the significance of that or the desire to finally we get to find out or see what was going on with this guy at this time. So that's different than like not understanding what's happening. Like I was never lost. I guess I just didn't feel the gravitas or something of that. So I'm going to stand by the 2 as my overall. I feel like this particular issue was kind of just knock out that that Star Wars quota, man. But it was a fun read. It didn't drag, and I didn't not enjoy it. Boom. Let me roll into my 2 picks. I got 2 picks for the chat to vote. So get your finger on the trigger, y'all. 2 choices. One choice is a what if comic. It's what if the Silver Surfer possessed the Infinity Gauntlet. There's plenty of True Believer versions out there for a couple bucks. The original one goes for a little bit more, but easily attainable. Fun little story. It's been a couple years, I think, since I've read it, but what if Silver Surfer possessed the Infinity Gauntlet is choice 1. And choice 2, this guy's been getting relevant lately, and he's a character that I dig. And let's get back to a spectacular first issue of the Vigilante. Vigilante #1. Also another affordable book, because even though there's like Vigilante hotness going on, this isn't a key or anything. This isn't his first appearance, and this is, you'll have this thing shipped to your door inside of $10. So those are the 2 choices: Marvel, DC, Vigilante. What if?
Just wait for the chat lag, and they'll get in there.
I guess the inker made a lot of money on Vigilante, though. So
yeah, that reminds me of that artist that you had some work done by. Doesn't he like draw on newsprint paper or like?
Oh yeah, yard sale artist. Yeah, he does. He takes book pages.
Oh, we got 2 Vigilantes, 2 What Ifs.
I love What If books. You know that.
Oh, What If ahead by 1?
I know you like the Silver Surfer, so I know where you guys are going with it.
Yeah, I'm happy both ways.
I remember buying that Vigilante book off the rack and reading it when I was a kid.
I've never read that What If either.
Vigilante, What If? Man, 2 good picks because it's back and forth out there.
Yeah, there's a lot. I'm seeing that. We got a split chat here.
All right, first one gets a super chat. That's going to be the winner. So
I don't have the money to sit up.
Didn't you watch Friday Night Hangouts? They're going to monetize or put commercials on your channel anyway, so you might as well monetize.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Screw you, Susan.
Any others? No? Great Legend was the last vote.
Man.
Legend wants Vigilante.
Okay, count them up.
Crap, I haven't been counting. Hold on, let me. I'll have to put this on the old pen and paper here. There's so many things. Or just read them off. Someone read them off to me. I'll write it. And
I'll read them off. Okay, Matt Woods votes for What If. Unruly gets the vote for Vigilante. Magic Lasso, Vigilante. Metarog, What If. Comic Mag Musings, What If. Super Russ, What If. The Jackson Roy Kirk, Vigilante. The Great Legend, he has Vigilante. Jeffrey Ingram, What If. Gore Vidal, Vigilante. William Smallwood, What If. Alex Big Blue, What If. John Ramos, What If. Hey, Great Legend, voting twice there. Immortal, Biggie Shack, Vigilante. And yeah, that was it. That's all we got right now.
Yeah, with 2 in the head, 2 ahead here for What If. So
it's a good
speak
pick.
now. Hold your peace.
Yeah, that'll be a fun read.
I'm gonna call it.
Let's talk about a cover swipe, huh?
All right.
Lim too. I think he did the cover, didn't he?
What was the other What If?
#1, wasn't
Did
it?
we do another What If? We did What If 1.
What if Sue Storm married Namor? Or
oh yeah, when Spidey joined the FF, right?
I think that was Medrock's pick, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, that is a swipe there. I think of Infinity Gauntlet 1, right? Thanos with the.
I think did Lim do that cover too? It looks like kind of like Lim's art, but.
So what number of What If is that? Is there just the one shot?
Oh shit! It's not on the True Believer. It's like 30 something. Let's see.
Yeah.
We know what the title is. What if the Silver Surfer possessed the Infinity Gauntlet, right? Good.
What if 49?
What if number 49?
Yeah.
Is that volume 2 or? I guess I want to go for the original.
I couldn't tell you the volume.
You'll find it, dude.
I want to say volume 2 though.
Look at that.
All
Silver
right,
Surfer
guys.
Hanky.
So we're going to end the show here. That's our pick. The What If the Silver Surfer possessed the Infinity Gauntlet. I haven't read that one myself, so that'll be interesting. I know Absolute Power corrupts absolutely, right? He's got the power of Cosmic as well, so interesting to see what'll happen there. thanks everybody for participating tonight. Thanks everybody for being in the chat for so long. And we'll be back next time with one of the original graders, Mr. Medarog, will be back. He's done his Florida move, which I guess went well. So yeah, see you guys in a couple weeks on the next episode of Graders Notes. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
See you later.